couple other segments
Well,
that may or may not transpire while we wait for it to actually come into fruition.
I knew it wasn't instant, but when I hit start broadcast, a pop-up appeared that said your broadcast is now live. And so that's actually a positive affirmation.
Mine just came up. Just
Yeah.
now it said live on the screen.
So, in honor of this live MMAniacs reaction to the
Mm.
blockbuster news, and it is blockbuster news, which headlines the opened up Sports Center, which I don't think news about a fight 6 months from now or 4 months from 5 months from now, opening up Sports Center in the middle of the NHL and NBA playoffs, pretty big deal. So we're gonna open up a big dirty seltzer can and talk about the sudden announced retirement of Conor McGregor and how that affects UFC 200 and why.
He opens defiantly. So if you go back, if you listen, you'd have to pour over the old podcasts. But
And well, how about we make Paul Landwehr do it?
Okay, that could be one of his. Sure, we'll make Land listen to all of them, and then find the audio of me saying this.
Yes, but
Me saying this quote right here, and here was my quote. I'm gonna get it as close as I can, but I'm almost sure this is like verbatim. It was something like this: Mark my words.
oh,
Mark my words.
can I finish it?
Mark my
Oh,
words. That main event will never happen. Something
oh,
is going to go wrong. Something is going to happen between now and when supposedly McGregor and Nate Diaz. It's such a goofy. The whole idea of it is so goofy and doesn't make any sense that I was sure that it was never going to happen. So my affirmations have been confirmed.
okay.
By way of Conor McGregor and Dana White and Kavanaugh.
Well,
So
how about this? How about this? And I have my own thoughts on Kavanaugh, but instead of jokingly and really making Paul Landwehr find that quote, which, by the way, I don't remember you saying, and that's could be fine because sometimes I've been doing things that Nick Diaz gets suspended for before the podcast. But if anyone can find that quote and they give us the time code, they will win a copy of The Crippler.
He can't give the fucking poor book away. Dude, all you have to do is just go and put a fucking review. The first person that does it. Just go put a review on iTunes. I've asked for 5. I thought that was reasonable. Then I went to 3.
Yeah,
I
didn't
thought
agree
that's
with
completely reasonable. I'd pick one of the 3. Just the first person that goes to iTunes and says, these guys are great and gives us 5 stars is getting a fucking copy of that book. Go do it right now and you'll own the book. We're going to send it to you. It won't cost you any money. We're going to put it in the mail. We're going to send it to your house. It's going to be free of charge. You're going to get a copy of Chris Liebman's book. Do it right now. Go do it right now, this moment. As you're hearing these words come out of my mouth, stop listening to the podcast. Put it on pause. Set down your iPad, your iPhone, your Walkman, whatever it is you're listening to this podcast on. Walkman.
It sounds like this is a fundraiser to try to give.
This is my fundraiser voice. This is my NPR voice. Put down whatever you're doing. Go to iTunes and fucking tell everyone how great we are.
Yeah.
Or not.
Okay.
Or just sit there and go, somebody is going to do it sometime.
No, just leave the time code for the Chris. Whatever. But I never thought what you were going to. Wait, time out.
Go ahead. Time out. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't want to argue if you said that or not, because that's a totally reasonable prediction as well, because we know with these big fights being announced so far in advance how many change. I mean, look at UFC 197, which is coming up this weekend. That card is drastically changed since it was first announced.
Look at
Which, by the way,
last weekend's card. Look at how many fights we lost in last weekend's card. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this coming week's card, of course.
What I thought you were gonna say was, I've said this because you prefaced it by saying it's something you've said all the time, was Conor McGregor is gonna take Dana White's job, because this could have a trickle-down effect.
I think that's true too. Listen, I don't think this fight was ever going to happen. I don't think the fight was ever going to happen. I think the UFC knew it. Here's my prediction. They've been in negotiations with GSP the entire time, trying to get him on 200. And you're going to hear an announcement in the next 2 weeks. That's going to be GSP. Who knows? Does he go right to Lawler? I don't know. It's going to be his return fight. That's going to be the main event. That's the main event they always wanted.
Well, there's no way to prove.
This is my chemtrail bullshit. Come on, it's my UFC chemtrail.
Yeah, I don't think it's the main event they've always wanted. GSP versus Robbie Lawler, because GSP hasn't fought since 2013. Right.
Ever was in the UFC before McGregor's return.
No. Ronda Rousey was bigger before McGregor was here. So
okay. Either of those two came. GSP was the biggest thing ever. He was the biggest box office draw. So his return to the bigger he is.
Right.
Much bigger.
There have been stories out saying that they have been speaking with each other, but the Reebok deal and GSP's endorsements from Under Armour is one of the things that's holding it up. But now I feel like it's going to be even muddier, because with Conor McGregor being pulled from the card, that's important to note. UFC, Dana White came on SportsCenter the night that we were recording this on April 19th and announced that the UFC have pulled Conor McGregor from the card. And that was their response to his retirement tweet. But they also said that he had. All right, I feel like
I'm here. I'm here. I was just fixing.
I know, but I need to like mute your microphone.
Oh.
All right. So I lost my train of thought. Excuse me. UFC have announced that they pulled McGregor from the card. McGregor didn't say he's not fighting on the card. He announced his retirement and said, thank you for the money.
Thanks for the cheese.
Yeah.
Right.
See us.
Got it.
Yeah.
I don't believe any of that. I don't think anybody believes any of that. If he's going to retire, what is he, 27? He's going to retire now when he's at his prime, making the most money anybody's ever made as a mixed martial artist. That's the stupidest fucking thing on planet Earth. Nobody believes that he's retiring. Nobody believes it. It's a bunch of fucking hogwash. You know it. I know it. Anybody that has above a fucking 40 IQ can ascertain what kind of nonsense that is. Oh, I'm the biggest draw that's ever happened in mixed martial arts ever. Bigger than Fedor, bigger than Brock Lesnar, bigger than GSP. I'm the biggest thing that's ever happened to mixed martial arts. I'm just going to walk away from it after a couple of big fights. Nope. Not going to happen. I'm sure he could.
He's not walking away from.
He could live.
He's not walking away.
Stop. He could live comfortably.
You have to look at the computer.
I'm sure he could live comfortably on the money that he's made so far in the UFC for the rest of his life. But you and I both know that he's not doing that. So.
But you said I have a problem with you saying he's walking away from. Okay. Are we on like a embedded reporter type delay here?
Yeah, there must be some kind of delay because I feel like I feel like I'm talking over you and I'm not meaning to.
Okay, I'm
So
gonna
so you
just
go. Go
put my
ahead.
hand up.
Okay, that's good.
You had
That's good. Put your hand up. That's like you have the card.
like I'm a fifth grade teacher, but it's not walking away from mixed martial arts at the top of the game. He's right now in a stare down with the UFC to see who will blink first, because
Right, I
no
agree.
one. Nick Diaz got pulled from his fight with GSP. It was referenced on the same Dana White announcement on Sports Center for not wanting to go to the press conference. He called it a
Right.
fashion show, a beauty pageant. McGregor didn't want to travel back to America while training in Iceland to promote a fight that he doesn't have to promote because that's what the UFC wants him to do because he's this centerpiece. But you and I both know that you just said it. He is at the top of the game. This is a fight that he literally has to do nothing to promote.
Right.
He's except get his mind and his body ready for it in the same way that you're not going to see Ronda Rousey going on the Tonight Show to promote her comeback fight. You're not going to see her going on Good Morning America or co-hosting The View to promote her comeback fight because she's going to be training to fight in the same way that McGregor had been approaching this rematch, and that's what he said. That was his reason. He didn't want to leave Iceland and be a part of the same movie shoot bullshit that he went through with Aldo the first time, only to have Aldo pull after it was all done. And they even scrapped an entire. Still, I don't think that they aired it on the way to 194, but they did one of those bad blood specials that the UFC has produced before. That's on Fight Pass, such as Tito Ortiz Dana White boxing match that never happened.
Right.
But I'm just saying that that's what this is. It's of course nobody thinks that he wants to retire and he's choosing to retire because he has money already. It's a fight between him and the UFC to will he bend to their I'm the boss, you're the employee. And to quote a possible future MMA journalist of the year and the host of Knuckle Up, Eugene S. Robinson. I don't know if he's quoting something else because I've looked up the quote and I can't find it anywhere. So I think it's one of his own phrases, but no man weighs more than Russia. And Conor McGregor is the man and UFC is Russia. And it's probably a fight that he can't win because the UFC has a point, but McGregor thinks that he could do whatever he wants to do. So he's still under contract with the UFC. That's not going to change. It's not like he's going to take McGregor Promotions and have an unsanctioned fight at Croke Park against Jose Aldo if Jose Aldo decides to leave the UFC because he's pissed with the USADA, he's pissed with the Reebok deal, he can't wear his Venom in there. I mean,
Right.
will Ireland even sanction MMA after what happened last weekend, which was a death post fight that coincidentally was a teammate of Conor McGregor's who was in the fight, who defeated the man who later died from brain injuries. But
That's
McGregor
such a
watched it
shame.
all. McGregor watched it all cage side. He was there for that. Ariel Helwani brought it up on a video chat on MMA Fighting immediately today.
Yeah, I read what McGregor said about it, and it was it was very nice what he had to say. I mean, it's hard to find something nice that in this whole thing, but it's somebody chasing their dream, somebody trying to better their life and try to do something for themselves and their family, and it's unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate thing. And I know McGregor said he was real bummed out about it, and I can't imagine any human being that has any kind of feeling in their body would not be bummed
Right.
out about it. It's a very easily something that's not hard to be bummed out about.
Yeah. But so if you're in McGregor's shoes and this happens because he died this past Monday. It happened Sunday overnight in Ireland into Monday for us here. And you have to go to Las Vegas less than a week later and start doing photo shoots, pairing off against this guy who just beat you. I mean, the story is the rematch. The story is Conor McGregor wanted this rematch and the UFC gave it to him. I don't think that it's going to bring more, these ads are going to help bring that many more eyes to it. They need to just rerun the tape of last time and put
You're
some
such a
fucking music.
McGregor. You're such a fucking McGregor fanboy. I get it from
No, really. Like, what did I say that was being fanboy about him? I'm saying that
well,
they don't
just that
even need to
you're
use
saying
him. I'm not giving him an excuse not for showing up. I'm just saying that he has a point. What is he gonna do? He's not gonna be doing his cocky shit talking because he was defeated. He was choked the fuck out. What's he gonna say? Well, it's not gonna happen again. Like, he has no. He just saw a man die in the ring. Does he really want to go play these games in front of Las Vegas? Like, no. The same thing as Ronda Rousey. Like, he just has to get to training, and that's what he's doing. I wasn't saying anything. If anything, I was saying the UFC could exploit it and just show the video of him losing last time and say the rematch. Like, that's all they need. But
yeah, I don't know if I agree with what. I mean, everybody has to do press. That's everybody's job has to do it. When Ronda makes her comeback fight, she's going to be doing all that press that you say she's not doing. She's going to be doing maybe not all of that, but some of it for sure. She has to.
some is
She
different than all, though, and I'm not. And this is, yes, a part of it. I'm just saying on the from a popularity standpoint, neither Ronda nor McGregor really needs to do any promotion because what are they going to say? It's a rematch of a loss. They're both coming off losses, and the story of fan favorites coming off losses is that they want to win. So they don't need to get on talk
Well, the
shows talking
story is
about it.
always what have you done to better yourself to make sure that loss doesn't happen again. And so
Yeah, but that's
that's
shown the night
always
of the
the
fight.
intrigue. What's that?
But that's shown the night of the fight. Chris Weidman isn't going to go on Stephen Colbert and he'll be like, I hear you're working on your jujitsu. And he says, yeah, I'm going to try to bend his elbow back. That's not, what they're working on, they're keeping to themselves if it's a new game plan to show what's going to change. They're not promoting what new things they've done unless it's clear they went to a new camp or they're working with a new head coach
Well,
or
you
cornerman.
hear similar stories over and over again. You hear, well, I had to clear my mind and I had all these things going on, or I had a nagging injury, and that was the one of the big reasons that I had the loss, or um, I had my grandfather died and my mind wasn't in the game, or I was in a bad situation. The place that I trained at wasn't healthy, and so I moved. There's always some
But
sort of
that's
little
not the
story.
case for either of these two.
Right, but you just have to hear whatever their story is. Whatever their story is. Ronda's story is going to be, uh, I have to. I had to come to terms with my own fucking ego. I had to come to terms with my own ego because I felt like I was indestructible. That's going to be her story. her
But do you
story is
remember?
her story is that I decided I was going to fucking stand up with a world class boxer and make very little attempt to take down a world class boxer. And I decided that because I had knocked out some very notable, when she knocked out Betch Kohei, was supposed to be the best kind of stand up person she was up against. And she knocked her out in the first however long. That kind of shit goes to her head, and then everyone's around her telling her, "You're the best. You're the best. You're the best thing that's ever happened. You're unstoppable. You're amazing." And she has that whole everyone around her, all her training partners, her significant other, the only person that's giving her the straight dope is her mother. Her mother's trying to hopefully can get some, make a little bit of talk a little bit of sense to her in that regard. But I feel like that's going to be her story. That's going to be her story.
Well, her story is already out. She already went on Ellen and talked about her story. So she's not promoting, but she's also coming off of a head kick knockout, not a neck submission. So she is definitely out for close to a year. It's been nothing announced officially, but it's looking like November, possibly at Madison Square Garden. There's a reason that a notable non-New York native was at the official signing that the governor made to officially pass the bill from a few weeks prior. But so what do you think happens? What do you think happens with Nate Diaz? Do you think Nate Diaz is still main eventing UFC 200?
No.
Okay.
He's not main. There's nothing interesting enough about Nate Diaz except for the fact that he beat Conor McGregor. There's nothing main eventy enough about him. He came from being kind of the UFC's whipping boy to stepping up and doing this fight and then winning, and then that's the notoriety that he's gotten is from that fight. So if you take out the other part of that fight, which is McGregor, which is the reason that 90% of the people would be watching in relationship to that fight, then who do you put in there that's going to be, you can't, there's nobody that's equally as interesting. And that maybe GSP.
Yes.
Maybe GSP.
Yes.
Maybe that's the fight. Maybe that's the only way I could see Nate Diaz keeping the main event is if GSP came out and then those two are the main event. That I could see.
Okay. Now,
but I don't see any. Who else could you possibly see stepping into to warrant being a main event over two other title fights?
Oh no one. I mean, I was sort of asking you that, hoping that you would make the GSP connection there, because
right, okay.
Is that the main event? Because do we want to prove that the guy that was the big draw before Ronda and before Conor is still feasible enough? So that's what I'm saying. Would GSP, if he wasn't fighting Robbie Lawler, which I don't think he is, I think Robbie Lawler is going to fight Tyron Woodley, would GSP versus Nate Diaz then be the main event, almost as a thumb your nose at Conor for pulling this shit?
It could be because that the return of GSP is bigger than either of those title fights. The return you could put a fucking mop bucket on the other side of the octagon from him, and he'll still be the main event. It's GSP show, and that if that happened, it would be a bigger 200 than it would with McGregor at the helm.
If
it goes down, if they sign GSP and he fights Nate Diaz and that stays the main event, that UFC 200 will be bigger than it would have been if it stayed the same.
Okay, then if it stayed without GSP on it, yeah.
Right, if it stayed McGregor Diaz as the main event and GSP wasn't involved in the fight at all, in the UFC 200 at all, it's going to be a bigger event with GSP, because that's a bigger story than watching McGregor fight Nate Diaz again. Watching GSP come back into the game is a much bigger story, and we'll have much more people tuning in.
But I disagree, because I think that in the last few years since GSP left, the UFC has gotten so much more popular throughout the world that there are people, they hear GSP, they've seen the countless replays of a fight that most of them, if they saw it, probably think that Johnny Hendricks won, and that's the one that he went away. So that's everyone's last memory of GSP. And the UFC and MMA have changed a very lot in that time. And I'm not just saying in popularity in Ireland specifically, because I know Canada is a big enough country as well. They might even be comparable in population because Canada is mostly along the U.S. border. But I'm just saying that to argue that is not something I'm interested in, because how can we tell? The only way we could tell is if we compared
No,
it
who
to the
knows?
results of
It's
194.
just speculative. It's
Right.
impossible. You could never do it.
But
You would
I
have
want
to
to
have
talk.
a time machine. You'd have to have a time machine and be able to run the two events and then go back and see how they went. You'll never know. It's just speculatory to me. That's all.
Yeah,
I'm just saying what I think of how popular I think that fight would be.
Okay, and I'm just saying I want to talk about real possibilities for this card. Who, if GSP doesn't fight Nate Diaz, if he's not on the card at all, Nate Diaz is still on the card. Who do you put him against? Do you put him against Cowboy Cerrone? To me,
yeah, and it's like maybe not even the main card anymore.
Yeah, well, I think they would have to keep it still on the main card.
Maybe not. No, maybe it's the main. Maybe that's the main fight of the undercard of the prelims. But I don't. That's not an exciting enough fight to keep on the main event. It's
no, no. It's not going to be a main event. It's not going to be a fucking main event, okay? But you mentioned the two cards underneath it, the two title fights, and I think that if this McGregor thing plays out, then what happens to the male title fight? Is it still the interim featherweight championship, or is it now the undisputed featherweight championship? The vacant featherweight championship.
Well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that either. That's an interesting thought as well. I mean, I'm 99% sure that it would stay the interim, because the way Dana White left it off was that they still have a good working relationship with Conor McGregor and they plan on working with him in the future. And so,
well, he didn't say they plan on working.
In order to do that, they would have to not strip him of his belt, because I think that would cause a lot more issues than.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So I don't. It's a good thought. It's an interesting thought, but I think they probably will keep it at the interim level, unless it really comes to blows and Conor goes, no, I'm definitely retiring. I'm done, which I really would have a very hard time swallowing that pill. The same. As soon as I saw the tweet, I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. Shut up. Nobody believes that. Stop it. Stop wasting everybody's time. You're better than that. You're better than that tweet.
No, but Nick, it's not like he posted that as to play a joke on anyone. It's clearly a tactic that he doesn't want to play ball with the UFC. So it's not like he's trying to get one over on the fans or the Twitter friends or followers or what have you. It's just part dramatic. Of the game. Of course it's dramatic. This is fucking dramatic. It's not just dramatic. It's dramatic because it's the age-old fighter versus promoter clash. And they're clashing over things, and something's got to give. But that something is almost surely not going to be Conor McGregor fighting on UFC 200. So now, this is what I'm asking you. Say that you're wrong about GSP, and I'm wrong, because this is something that I think the GSP is going to fight on it too, and I think that it's still going to be Nate Diaz. Even though Nate Diaz has said that GSP is a Nick Diaz fight, they've already fought. It happened. So like Nate was going to fight a big superstar in the main event. So why not keep that main event? Because there's no way in fucking hell that Miesha Tate Amanda Nunes headlines this, or Jose Aldo, or Jose Aldo Frankie Edgar. Even if it is for say they strip McGregor, or McGregor vacates it in his retirement.
Right.
If he files retirement papers, which I don't even know if there's a thing you can do. I know there isn't. Papers. Yeah. So
I've
even if he
submitted my
did,
retirement papers.
right, and his letter of resignation, and if that automatically made the belts open again and not the UFC taking it from him, that still in no way headlines the main event UFC 200. So I think what they're holding out on is, or what they're really hoping for, is John Jones either walks through Ovince St. Preux, or maybe in the week between now
and then, the fight gets canceled. Ovince St. Preux backs out.
not Ovince St. Preux
Jones
backs out. Not Ovince St. Preux backs out, but John Jones pulls out so we can fight in UFC 200 against DC. But that's probably not going to happen. It's only going to happen if he walks through St. Preux. And I don't. I mean, I think that's probably going to happen, but I don't know. Who knows? It's been over a year. I don't think he's going to lose to OSP.
I think he's gonna come back so hard. I think that dude's gonna come back so hard. I think he's gonna come back scarier than we've ever seen him. I'm scared for motherfuckers. I'm scared for Ovince St. Preux. I think that dude's gonna get fucking murdered. And I'm an OSP fan. I think he's a good fighter. I enjoy his fights. I like that Patrick Cummings fight. Even the Ryan Bader fight was an interesting fight, even though he lost it. He's had some really good fights in the UFC. I like OSP, but he's not on John Jones' level, and nobody is. Nobody is.
Well, OSP is mainly a striker.
I want to see Jones come back and do what McGregor claims he could do, and I want to see Jones come back and wipe out the light heavyweight division, and just wipe it clean to where there's no doubt. You're all fighting for second place here. Nobody's fighting for first place. You're all fighting for second place because nobody's getting it. And as soon as that happens and he clears that division out, puts on that extra 40 pounds that he's walking around with right now, because he's walking around at 245, puts that back on, and then starts taking apart the heavyweight division.
Well, I don't. The heavyweight division is still the craziest division because anything can happen. He could get hit by a knuckle by one of these giants, and that doesn't make him the worst guy. That's why it's so hard at the top to even determine the contenders, especially after that heavyweight fuck fest in Croatia.
No,
who knows what's going on? There's almost no prospects. There's one guy under 30 in the entire top 15, and he's a guy that may not be in the top 15 very much longer. But I hope that John Jones goes up there too. He's pretty much just one Anthony Rumble Johnson away from clearing out the division. I guess you could throw in OSP, especially because they're fighting this weekend. But he might have unfinished business in rematches with Gustafsson or Cormier.
I think you have to revisit that stuff because he's been gone so long. I don't think you can. You can use his past victories as cleaning out the division. I think he has to start. Obviously, he's starting with a leg up on everyone. He left the champion. He never lost, really. His one lone loss was not a loss. It was a fight in which he was fucking murdering a dude.
Yeah.
And so the only other fight that you could consider he may have lost was the Gustafsson fight. But I think he has to go through and clean it out again. He has to do Gustafsson and DC and Rumble Johnson. And once he gets those three or maybe 4 fights, maybe Texera, maybe Texera comes in and fights Rumble Johnson. Maybe Texera fights Rumble Johnson, knocks out Rumble Johnson, then he's the dude. Then he has to, So
yeah,
after 3 or 4 fights, that's the cleaning out of the division. I don't think it's going to be 1 or 2 fights, and then he just lives off of the past glories that he had. He has to go through and clean out the top 5 guys, and then he can move up to heavyweight. That's my thought on it.
I disagree. I think I guess because he's fighting St. Preux, I would say he has 3 fights after St. Preux, and that's Johnson, DC, and Gustafsson. I don't think he has, unless Teixeira can knock out Rumble Johnson in easy fashion like he did with Rashad Evans, which we haven't even got into
No, I
UFC
know. I
Tampa.
haven't talked about that, which was a really good card.
Yeah, ended up having a lot of fun fights. We saw the return of Habib, but the fight against Glover, Teixeira, John Jones the first time was a slaughter. I know it went to decision, but Teixeira would have to beat those same top 3, I think, that you just mentioned in order to earn that rematch, in my opinion. But
yeah,
and I don't think John Jones is interested in staying along enough to revisit that, which was fairly said and done earlier. Teixeira can be interim champion or fight for interim championship against someone else coming up, but I don't know. So the early prediction: John Jones steamrolls OSP, and I think maybe the UFC waits a week or so to announce. Maybe they delay the press conference that's supposed to be on Friday because of this McGregor thing, and they want to see how it plays out because they're
right. He's
hoping.
gonna have to come in and knock out OSP in the first round and not take any damage at all.
Yeah.
If that happens, then maybe we'll see him at 200. I think that's the only way we see him at 200 is if he comes in there and gets a guillotine choke on him like he did Shogun Rua and puts him to sleep in the first 5 minutes, and then maybe we'll see him at 200. But if it's any kind of drawn out fight, if it goes 5 rounds, if he takes any damage, if it's a tough fight, which I don't foresee it being. I mean, I was watching some of St. Preux's other fights, and he definitely has a limited gas tank. So he doesn't have the gas tank that John Jones has, or that he had when he left, because who knows where it is right now. I imagine it's going to be better than it ever was, but who knows? You never know.
And
the guy's dropping 40 pounds to get to fight weight. That's a lot of fucking weight.
And if you saw those Instagram posts, his body before and after he started powerlifting and working out in the time he's been off, he looks jacked. His muscles are like crazy. He had no muscles before in comparison. I know he was a strong and powerful, long, lean dude, but he looks pretty ripped. But he'll still have to be careful.
Anything about those chicken legs?
Well, he'll still have to be careful the way that he fights because of the same differential in weight. If you're not used to fighting at a certain speed, you may end up getting those muscles might be tired sooner. But he has had quite a lot of time to train, hopefully, but not at his actual cut weight, but with the 40 extra 40 he's been walking around with.
Yep.
But it's still one thing to look out for at 197 this weekend. Do you think that there's an upside in the flyweight division? Do you think Cejudo pulls it off? Or?
I think if anybody has a chance in the flyweight division to dethrone Mighty Mouse Johnson, it's Henry Cejudo. His stand-up looks really good, and his wrestling is better than anybody's wrestling in the UFC. Pound for pound, he's the best wrestler in the UFC. He's better than DC. He's better than Patrick Cummings. I can't think of any other super notable wrestlers that would even come close to being mentioned in the same breath as him. That guy is the real fucking deal. And Johnson's so fast. That's the only thing. Is Johnson's so goddamn fast. And they move so quickly in that division. Maybe he won't be able to defend the takedowns, but maybe he's really been working on his getting back up. And that's a whole different game. The takedown game is a whole different game from keeping your guy on the ground. So you can get a guy that can hit 10 takedowns, but if he can't keep you down, it doesn't mean shit. You get those takedowns, the judges score them, and then you move on. But that's the only way he's going to beat. He's not going to beat him on his feet. He's not fast enough to beat Mighty Mouse Johnson on his feet. His stand-up looks really good. His last few fights, really nice-looking stand-up. He's really come a long way. He's put a lot of work in, and he's done all the footwork to be a good striker, a competent striker, a striker that is on the level with the other strikers in the UFC. He's done the footwork to do that, but he's not on Mighty Mouse Johnson's level as far as striking goes. So the way he can win the fight is by taking him down, and his ground and pound's nasty. His ground and pound's real nasty. If he can get on top of him and grind it out on him, he can win it. But I don't think he can hold Johnson down. I think Johnson's too wiry. I think he's too fast. I think he's going to pop back up. Do I think Cejudo's going to take him down? Fuck yes. Do I think he's going to take him down 5 times? Yeah. 10, maybe. He's going to take him down. He's going to be put on his back in this fight. Johnson is, but I think he's going to pop right back up. I don't think Cejudo is going to be able to hold him down, because that's not a wrestling game the same way it is in MMA and jiu-jitsu. It's not as an innate thing for a wrestler to know. So
you're not predicting it.
Give me a
prediction.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think Mighty Mouse Johnson is going to gut it out. I think Mighty Mouse Johnson is going to get a decision. I think it's going to be a tough fight for both of them. And I think he's going to be put on his back a lot, but I don't think he's going to be able to stay down there. And I think he's going to accumulate more strikes. And I think what it's going to come down to is the judges are going to have to weigh the strikes from Johnson versus the takedowns of Cejudo. I think those are going to be the 2 deciding factors in the fight.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction. I think about it. I've gone back and forth on this a lot, because I look at Cejudo and I go, who the fuck is going to stop that dude? It's the same kind of way that I look at Khabib Nurmagomedov. Like, who in the fuck is going to stop that dude? Who's going to stop that dude? And I go, Mighty Mouse Johnson. Yeah, Mighty Mouse Johnson can shut him down. Mighty Mouse Johnson can pop back up. Mighty Mouse Johnson can get out from underneath him and outstrike him on the feet for sure. So,
well, interesting stat facts about this that might come as a surprise to you is Henry Cejudo is actually in the striking game landed his slight advantage. It's significant strikes landed per minute, and he has a much lower takedown accuracy than Demetrius Johnson. But
interesting.
But Cejudo has defended 100% of his takedowns attempted on him.
Right.
But that's
I don't know. Maybe we'll see one of those things like we saw with Jones Cormier, where fucking Jones out wrestled this crazy Olympic wrestler. I mean, that was the nuttiest thing about that whole fight for me, was the 2.
And Jones had never been taken down until DC took him down.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is that's what we might see with Johnson and Cejudo, like that. Johnson might be the first guy, because that guy has the same battery when he starts the fight as when he ends it. It's the same battery. The battery has not diminished at all. There's been no power left. When you look up at the top of the cell phone, it says 100% battery life at the beginning of the fight. At the end of the fight, it still says 100% battery life. That guy is the same speed. He never stops. He never slows down. He never shows any signs of wear and tear. So if he might be able to wear Cejudo down and get a takedown like Jones did with Cormier. Jones wore him down and got him to the point where he was gassed, and he was able to get those takedowns on him. So,
well,
we'll see what happens. That'd be real interesting. It'd be real interesting if Mighty Mouse Johnson could wear him down and then get a takedown on him, get on top of him and pound him out. That'd be real interesting. Or he might knock him out. He might knock him out.
I think
fucking Dotson, man. Dotson, that.
And Fight Pass.
That was great. That was great. Really good. The Fight Pass was really good. Michael Chiesa, my God,
Oh yeah.
man, that is so impressive to me.
He
It's so
submitted Beneil Dariush with a rear naked jaw choke, pretty much. He just like crushed his jawbone and didn't even get under the chin. And first person to ever submit a high level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt such as Beneil Dariush. So, and Michael Chiesa kind of called out Tony Ferguson after the fight. I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah, that's a good fight. That's a real good fight. That's a real good fight. I mean, I called the fight for Dariush because of his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, uh, because I thought that Chiesa was going to do his ground game, which he does, and uh, and Dariush was going to have the upper hand there. So that's why I picked Dariush for the fight. So kudos to Mike Chiesa. That guy keeps getting better and better. I mean, I was a fan from day one. I watched that whole season of The Ultimate Fighter, and I liked him through the whole season. I enjoyed him. I was happy for him to win the thing. I thought he deserved it. I've been a fan of his the whole time. Uh, I've doubted him a few times since he won The Ultimate Fighter, and I keep getting proven wrong. Uh, and this one was such an impressive. I was so happy to be proven wrong. It was so impressive because that is a really tall order. I mean,
Right.
it's not on the level of like submitting Damian Maya, which would be the fucking earth would split open, and that would be the end of days. It would the raining of frogs, the earth splitting open, volcanoes, man lays with beast, on and on and on. Whatever the end of times would be, as if someone got their hand wrapped around Damian Maya's neck and choked him out. Uh, so it's not that level, but it's pretty fucking impressive. Dariush is a really, really high level black belt. He's not a. They're all different kinds of black belts, and I've rolled with a lot of different types of black belts, and they're black belts. I mean, I've never had a black belt that I had any kind of advantage over. I mean, I've tapped some before, but it's it's the one time out of the 40 times they would tap me out. So it's not, but I mean, there are very different types of black belts. The guy, by the way, I didn't tell you this, but I'm going to Dubai next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm going to Dubai. I'm going to visit my instructor.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm really excited. And he's the baddest motherfucker I've ever rolled with. And I've rolled with some bad dudes. And he makes me feel like I have zero knowledge about jujitsu. He makes me feel like a complete infant when I roll with him. And I'm a fairly competent jujitsu player, but rolling with him is insane. It's like having a Mack truck stuck on top of your chest. So I'm excited to go. So rolling with a guy like him, and then there are other black belts we roll with, and you go, he's not that guy. It isn't that guy.
Right.
So
yeah, Michael
so
Chiesa.
Dariush is a really high level black belt, and to be able to submit a guy like that is a super impressive thing. So,
and in an unconventional way, which I thought was very innovative and just showed he's a crafty guy and a big threat on the mat. But okay, speaking
I lost a jiu-jitsu tournament like that. Where
oh really? Oh,
yeah,
man.
the guy had a rear naked choke on me, but I tucked my chin, but my jaw just kept just the bottom of my jaw just kept moving to the left, moving to the left, moving to the left. My head was staying still, but my bottom of my jaw just kept moving over and moving over and over, moving over. And I tried to gut it out. The guy was so strong. It's such a gnarly grip. And I finally had to tap. And for 2 years, the whole right side of my face was numb. For 2 whole years of my life, I had no feeling in the side of my face because I was trying to gut that tap out. But it was gnarly. So I felt for Dariush when it happened. I mean, I saw it looked like he was caught in some type of mechanism that was not going to release. It looked like his jaw was going to come off of his head.
Yeah.
If you rewatch that and rewatch the replay when it slows down and you see how his head was compressed
Yeah.
and just pinned into his chest and his jaw was just being slowly fucking torn off. He had to tap. His jaw was going to be broken.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was a nasty, nasty thing. And he's a gutter, man. He's a real dude. He's a real legit black belt. He's not gonna fucking tap unless his jaw's kind of coming off the side of his head. So, kudos to Mike Chiesa once again. That was such an impressive victory. That whole card was good. I like that whole card. It was funny because it wasn't on paper. It didn't look like the best card, and the fact that we kept losing fights and the main event changed and all of the issues that came up with that fight. On paper, it didn't look like the best card, but it really turned out there were some real impressive fights.
I thought Cub Swanson looked impressive in his return.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
as
Cub
well.
Swanson looked great. Yeah.
Ponzinibbio knocking out Court McGee was that was tough to watch. Court McGee is he had been talking about it was actually his 10-year anniversary of sobriety and taking that fight on short notice. But Dodson just marking up Gamburian with just such a flurry of punches, and now he's ranked 10th in his newly rejoined bantamweight division. And
dude, if you watch the slow motion replay of Dodson hitting him, it looks faster than the real time replays of other guys hitting people in that same situation. It was like the slow motion, and it was still going. Bah, 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 bah. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, but the scary thing is that in his last fight, he looked slow compared to DJ. So,
right.
That's one thing to factor in.
Right?
Yeah. We had Ferreira defeat Olawonge Bangbos in Bangbos' first ever decision. But yeah, the fight of the night, you mentioned Fight Pass, the first fight that the longest, hardest to pronounce names of the card just tore it up. It was Zaleski dos Santos defeating Akhmedov by KO 3 minutes into round 3.
That was a really good
fight card. So, but looking ahead, let's just go down the lineup for UFC 197, and then we'll talk about Bellator, Koreshkov versus Henderson. And
I also wanted to talk about a little bit about the Risen that happened this last weekend. There was a couple
I did not watch the first ever tag team grappling match.
Okay.
But,
well, here's I'll give you the synopsis of it. Whenever one person tagged out, the other person tagged out. So it was always Sakuraba versus Vanderlei. It was never either of them versus either of one of their counterparts. And I can say almost unequivocally that the tag team partners were admonished to not finish each other. I can almost unequivocally say it. There were several things that were like grappler places where you're like, that guy wouldn't put his foot there. That guy would not miss that opportunity. They look like they're engaging very softly. They're not full. It's not full engagement here. They're trying to put on a show. There were a couple of scramble exchanges that were just too fluid and neat. It was like it was very. First of all, the whole thing went to a draw. But here's what I'll say: the Sakuraba versus Vanderlei, it looked like they were really fighting, but it was very boring. It was mostly on the feet. It was mostly fighting for a takedown. It was mostly just that. The other two guys really grappled, but they weren't trying to finish each other. It was the whole idea was they wanted to see the finish happen between. It was just a way to give those guys a break. It was a way to create something with this kind of circus fucking attitude that Japan is notorious for, and create this kind of circus atmosphere around this fight. But also the smart part of it was it gave these two older fighters a break. It gave them the opportunity to sit back for 5 minutes, take a breath, chill out, wait for their prescribed amount of time to go by, and their partner to tap them back in. So that was my take on that. It was kind of goofy. Darren Cruikshank made his debut in that. I didn't see the fight, but I heard that he won his debut in Risen. They also announced Fedor's next fight, which will be against Fabiano Maldonado.
Oh, I saw that, but did they announce that on the Ryzen card? Because I didn't see Ryzen 8. I thought that when he re-signed, it was with a Russian promotion because it's in Russia.
You're right. I was confusing the two things because Fedor's last fight was on Risen. I just confused the two things. But you're right. It's two separate things, but they're actually supposed to be fighting on Fight Pass. So I have to take a short break. I have to go take a leak.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Part 2. Take